Traveling the world or moving to another country without fully thinking about how you'll navigate your finances is a mistake. So today we're going to talk about just that, how to manage your money while living abroad or traveling long term. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Let me introduce myself. My name is Adelia Borishade. But most people on the internet know me as Picky Girl Travels the World. I help Black women master their money so they can live life on their terms. My clients include women planning to move abroad, travel long term, as well as some who are pursuing financial independence. So as you can see, money and travel are my main, are my favorite topics. If these are topics you want to hear more about, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Navigating your finances outside of the United States isn't really complicated, but it does require some planning. So let's get to talking about what kind of planning you need to do. Okay, so the first thing you want to consider are bank accounts. First of all, do you need a foreign bank account? If you plan to bop around, you're envisioning a life as a digital nomad or being a slow mad, having a foreign bank account isn't necessary at all. But if your plan is to apply for residency in a specific country and live there as a resident, you may need a bank account. Notice I use the word may. For example, in Mexico, where I am a resident, I do not need a foreign bank account. I don't need a Mexican bank account. I have one. It makes some things easier, but it is not necessary to be able to function here. However, when I lived in China, having a bank account there was absolutely necessary. It all depends on the country. For instance, if you are considering getting the D7 visa in Portugal, one of the primary requirements is that you have a Portuguese bank account. So whether or not you need a foreign bank account is really going to depend on how you're living your life and on the particular country. Keep in mind that even in a place like Mexico, where there are lots of people spending extended periods of time here, technically, you are supposed to have residency before you can open a bank account. That's not true in some other countries. So you're really going to have to investigate the countries that you're considering. Should you pay for things in USD or should you pay in local currency? This is an easy one. Always pay in local currency. Even anytime you are buying something in another country, and the currency is not the US dollar, you should pay in local currency. When you don't, when you go to a restaurant and they bring you back the bill and they ask you, do you want to pay in US dollars or do you want to pay in our local currency? They are giving you an exchange rate that benefits them. So why would you choose that? The same is said if you are taking an excursion and they offer, if they tell you, oh, no worries, you can pay in US dollars. Anytime somebody's publishing prices in US dollars, it's probably at a rate that is advantageous to them. So if given a choice, you always want to pay in local currency. Now, speaking of paying for things in local currency, if you're going to be spending a significant period of time in a single location, it's quite possible you're going to need to pay local bills, utility bills, cell phone bills, you name it. How do you do that? Well, it's going to depend. If you have a local bank account, it is quite possible that you can pay directly from your bank electronically, or that you may be able to use payment apps that connect to your bank account. For example, when I lived in China, everyone paid for everything with either WeChat or Alipay. You would need to connect your bank account to your WeChat or connect your bank account to your Alipay account in order to do that. Now, if you don't have a bank account, what are your options? Well, you can go pay bills in person. When I lived in Honduras, even though I did have a local bank account, it was common practice for people to pay bills in person. I know for those of us from the United States, this seems really strange, but it's still a common practice a lot of places around the world. A lot of utilities may have payment kiosks where you can go, and they'll be located, hopefully, conveniently around the city where you live. You can go there, put your cash into the machine, scan the bill, and you can make your payment. Here in Mexico, and I'm sure there are other countries that do this as well, you can go to convenience stores like OXXO or 7-Eleven, and you can make payments for pretty much any bill. So you're doing this without a bank account. You go to the OXXO or the 7-Eleven, you show them your electricity bill, they scan it, and you can pay it there. There are also apps, and this again is going to be dependent on the country. There is, as far as I know, no universal app that's accepted everywhere. Here in Mexico, there's an app called 123, which allows you to pay utility bills, cell phone bills, an assortment of bills without a Mexican bank account. And you can use your foreign credit card, or you can use PayPal. So look for similar apps in whatever country you're considering. How are you getting access to your money to pay these bills? If you are not working in the country that you're in and you're dependent on funds that are in a US bank, you need to have a plan for how you will access those funds. The easiest one is going to the ATM, using your ATM card for your US bank, getting out cash. There are going to be limits, daily limits, put in place probably by your bank, as well as there may be limits put in place by the ATM that you're using. So that's something that you'll have to do some research on. Another option, if you do have a local bank account, is to do a traditional wire transfer. This is a very secure and dependable way to get your money, but it does tend to be expensive and take probably 2 to 3 days for an international wire to go through. Another option would be to send yourself money via something like a Western Union. So from your US account, you would Western Union yourself money in the location you are, and you would go into Western Union with your ID and pick up the cash. Or you could use one of the many foreign transfer apps there are out there. Zoom, which is a product of PayPal, Remitly, Revolut, XE Currency even has a currency transfer option. I will put links to all of these in the description. With some of these services, it can go from bank account to bank account directly from these transfer apps. Some of them you can also go from your US bank account and then pick up money at a location similar to like a Western Union setup. Now, speaking about banks again, you want to make sure that your US bank is a traveler-friendly bank. And by that, I mean, it's a bank that does not charge you fees for international transaction. It does not charge you currency conversion fees. Those fees may seem small. You may think 1%, 3%, it's not that much. But if you're going to be gone long-term, that can add up. And there's no reason to give your money away if you don't have to. You also want a bank that rebates ATM fees. Charles Schwab, Capital One 360, I believe, does this. USAA used to, I'm not sure if they still do, and Fidelity all have accounts with these attributes. At the time of filming this video, Fidelity is actually running a special deal. If you open a cash management account, that's the account that will give you free international transactions, free rebated ATM fees, no currency conversions. If you open a cash management account and fund it within 15 days with $50, Fidelity will give you $100 for free. I don't know how long this deal will last, but I'll put a link to it in the description. Okay, so you definitely want to take advantage of this if you don't already have a traveler-friendly bank account. We can't talk about money and finances while living abroad and not discuss taxes. As long as you are a US citizen or a green card holder, even if the green card is expired, if you haven't surrendered it, you are subject to US federal income taxes on your global income. There is no way around that, okay? Now, whether or not you're actually going to have to pay taxes is dependent on several things. How much time are you spending outside of the US? What is the source of the income that you are making? Those things will determine your tax liability. Be sure to watch the video I did discussing all of this in great detail called "Do I Have to Pay Taxes Abroad?" There is a link in the description, and I'll try and put one right here as well, okay? So yes, you will have to file US taxes. Whether or not you're going to have to pay, that depends. What about taxes in the foreign country that you are visiting or that you are living in? Again, the answer to that question depends. It depends not only on the country specifically, but it also can be impacted by your residency status and the source of your income. Different countries have different rules. For instance, in Mexico, if the source of your income is not in Mexico and you are a resident here, you do not have to pay taxes on that. So it depends. So that's what you need to find out. I know a lot of people get worried about dual taxation. Will the US tax me as well as this country I'm in? Or if you're living a digital nomad lifestyle, there could be multiple foreign countries who feel that they have the right to tax you. That is dependent. But usually the country that you live in, that you are a tax resident of, has the first right to tax your income. How do you know if you're a tax resident? That's going to depend on the country. But as a general rule, if you are spending more than 183 days in a country in a given year, you probably are going to be considered a tax resident. So that's something to look into. But if your concern is dual taxation, being taxed doubly or multiple times, you need to do more research specifically about, are there any tax treaties between the US and the country that you're in, and do they have any totalization agreements? Researching those topics will help you determine whether or not you'll be taxed by both countries or if there has been some agreement worked out. If by chance you do have to pay taxes in the foreign country, more likely than not, you will be able to take a foreign tax credit on your US federal tax return, which basically says, look, I've already paid taxes in this other country, and that amount gets credited toward whatever taxes you might have to pay in the US. But that's a big if. It is quite possible that you may not have to pay taxes at all. Again, I strongly encourage you to watch the video I've already made called "Do I Have to Pay Taxes Abroad?" Now, as you're living your day-to-day life in this other country or these other countries, you've got to be buying things. Now, we've already discussed that you want to make sure that you pay in local currency whenever possible. But should you be using your credit card or your debit card? My personal rule is do not pay for things with your debit card. Reserve the use of your debit card solely for extracting cash from the ATM. If you have to remember that if something were to happen, like there's a skimmer on the machine or somebody steals your information and then like tries to go use it or open other accounts, there's a certain amount of protection that you have with a credit card that you do not get with a debit card. If somebody gets a hold of your debit card and can use it, they can empty your bank account. And this is the primary reason I only use my debit card when I'm pulling cash out. Other than that, I'm leaving it at home. Using your credit card more and more places, and depending on how you're living your lifestyle abroad, you may be able to use your credit card completely. I know when I visited Iceland, I never converted cash. I could pay for everything with my credit card. And even in a country like Mexico, here in Mexico City, you can get by solely with a credit card if you wanted to. If you can use a credit card, one added bonus is that the bill will be in US dollars. You can pay that credit card bill directly from your US bank account. So that makes things a little easier versus having a foreign credit card and trying to figure out how to pay it. Because remember, even though you can access your money from your US bank account, you're not going to be able to do that for free. The exchange rate, you're going to possibly lose a little money there. Or if you're using a transfer service, they're going to charge you a fee or they're going to give you an exchange rate that's beneficial to them. So if you have a US bill and you can pay it in USD from your US bank, that's better. So that's one thing in the column for credit cards. And I will just say here that if your plan is, well, I'll get a foreign credit card, that might be tricky. In a lot of countries, credit the way that you and I know it from living in the United States doesn't really exist, or it doesn't work the same way. Credit card limits are incredibly low, or credit cards are difficult to get. Paying with credit card can have some benefits, but it's definitely safer than paying for things with your debit card. So there you have it, the various things to consider when it comes to managing your money while living abroad or traveling long term. Be sure to check the description box below for links to the resources I mentioned in this video, including how you can book a one-on-one call with me to work on your finances or your move abroad plan. Thank you for watching.